Oh.
You did it, sir.
I did it?
Yep, in case you somehow haven't heard by now, Valve did it. They actually fixed TF2's bot problem. We'll never know how exactly they did it. All that matters is that Casual has been pretty much bot-free for over a month at the time of recording this. Will malicious actors find new workarounds? And if so, will Valve keep fighting the good fight? We don't know. But for the foreseeable future, TF2's bot crisis is over. So, naturally, the big talking point at the moment is whether we should take Casual, the thing we just went through several years of hell to reclaim from the bots, and get rid of it, just fucking dumpster the whole thing. This video is a follow-up to my last one all about Casual, so if you're confused why people are mad about it, watch that video first. And I might be misreading the room here, but it seems like most of us agree that Casual would benefit from some very simple changes. Add auto team scramble, let players freely switch teams and spectate, replace the best 2 out of 3 system for a map timer, and so on. These are all options that were removed from Valve servers with the introduction of Casual, because Casual had been designed as a skill-based matchmaking system. Like, you can't switch teams, the matchmaker worked so hard to make the teams as balanced as possible. By now, nearly a decade after Casual's introduction, it's safe to say that the experiment was a failure. Casual's MMR is worthless given how notoriously unbalanced casual matches tend to be, meaning there's no reason not to return all of those previously mentioned options. Again, most of us seem to agree with everything I just said, or are at least indifferent to the idea of fixing Casual. We're tired of pub stomps and the constant queuing. We just want to have fun for more than half of our playtime. So what makes this such a hot button issue? Well, if we're going to revert all of these changes that Casual had introduced, why don't we just revert Casual itself? Why not return to the previous matchmaking system, quickplay? Because here's the thing. Quickplay wasn't actually removed. It's still in the game. We just can't access it. When the Meet Your Match update dropped in 2016 and removed Quickplay from the menu, players discovered that they could still open Quickplay with a console command. And aside from not being able to connect to Valve servers, it functioned exactly as it had before. The console command was removed by Valve one day later, meaning they didn't delete Quickplay. They just locked it in a vault and hid the key from us. Granted, this was nearly a decade ago. Any one of the hundreds of patches since then could have broken something. But it's at least possible that replacing Casual with Quickplay could be done within a day. Now, reverting Casual is a pretty nuclear option. It would mean undoing years of work. How can that possibly be a good thing? Well, believe it or not, even after all of the work that Valve has put into Casual, there were still some things that Quickplay did better. There, of course, were the old Valve server settings, which were the focus of my last video. But a criminally underrated aspect to Quickplay was how it shined a spotlight onto vanilla community servers. Detractors of Quickplay are quick to mention how, when using Quickplay, you could end up in a community server with obnoxious ads or game-altering donator perks. This was true. At first. Yes, early versions of Quickplay were very primitive. There was a single big dumb Play Now button, and whether that button put you into a Valve server or a community server was out of your control. But that's not the version of Quickplay that people want to return. No, this is what they want. Quickplay in its final form, from right before Meet Your Match. Notably, this version of Quickplay had an option that you could tick to only search for Valve servers. You know, the thing we use Casual for right now. It was ticked on by default too, so you literally had to go out of your way to get put into community servers. And the fact that Quickplay could, if you wanted to, put you into a community server is one of the main reasons why people want a full reversion. Not just any community server, you could go into the settings and customize what type of experience you were looking for. Random crits on or off, 24 players or 30 plus players, etc. If you didn't trust that quickplay would put you into the best server, you could click the Show Servers button to browse your options. Basically the server browser, but it filtered out everything you didn't want for you. Hell, I didn't even use quickplay. I only used the server browser like the Chad that I am. Yet, I still benefited from quickplay's existence, because it both filled up servers with people that didn't know how to use the browser, and naturally encouraged those people to eventually figure it out for themselves. For example, if you joined a server through quickplay and left shortly after, you'd be asked if you wanted to blacklist that server. Oh wow, I can blacklist any server I don't like and never see it again? Let me check this out. Whoa, I can favorite the servers I liked too? And I could set a ping limit, sort by number of players, search for individual maps? This is frickin' neat. Because quickplay was so intertwined with the server browser, vanilla community servers were given enough visibility to coexist with Valve servers, meaning everyone had more options to play how they wanted to. If you only wanted to play on Valve servers, you could do so. If you wanted a vanilla experience but were tired of hackers slipping past VAC, or people spouting offensive nonsense without mods to ban them, or you wanted to mix things up with random crits off or 32 players, there were vanilla community servers. Yes, a lot of those community servers were crappy, but they could be blacklisted to never be seen again. And there were also diamonds in the rough. And we can be sure it was quickplay that allowed so many of these good vanilla servers to stay afloat, because the moment quickplay was removed, they started dropping like flies. All of this is to say that people aren't being blinded by nostalgia if they miss quickplay. It wasn't perfect, it had its flaws, but TF2 would have been much better off if Valve kept improving quickplay instead of replacing it with casual. So much of TF2's final 2 years of active development were wasted by Valve slowly adding things to casual that quickplay already had. Anything you might prefer about casual could have easily been implemented into quickplay during that time. Casual was a mistake. Despite this, pushing for a return to quickplay is not the right call, because it simply isn't in the cards. Back in 2016? Maybe. But not now. Valve isn't going to revert the matchmaking system that's been in place for 8 years. The only matchmaking system that the majority of the current player base has experienced. I know, that sounds rich considering people were saying the same about Valve fixing the bots. Let me explain. Fixing the bot problem was unanimously agreed upon to be good. Valve knew they needed to fix it. They said as much publicly. It was just a matter of whether they felt like walking that damn treadmill and putting in the work. By contrast, not everyone wants to get rid of casual. Even if we assume that returning to quickplay really would be better for the game overall, which is debatable. Most of the people currently playing the game have never even experienced quickplay. Not everyone will be convinced that upheaving the only matchmaking system they've ever known is good because just trust me bro. Especially since some features would be lost in the transition, like the badge system, or parties, or queuing for specific maps. Removing casual would cause friction, and friction is the last thing that Valve wants to deal with. Case in point, the water waders, a cosmetic from 2021 that, with some paint and a little creativity, can unlock all the secret other teams of TF2. Team Black, Team Green, you name it. Recently, the creator emailed Eric Smith, one of the few Valve devs known to still be working on TF2, asking if he wanted them to change the water waders' paint regions. Eric responded by saying that while he understands their concerns, at this point, it's better to leave the item as is. It's already been a couple years since it was released, and any changes might upset people who like how their water waders look now. Note the emphasis on how long it's been since the water waders were released. Valve doesn't want to go back and change what's been the status quo for years if it'll seriously upset people, like removing casual. And ever since Valve stopped prioritizing TF2 in 2018, there's only been one change that fits that description: the muting of free-to-play accounts. And you want to know why Valve did that? Not because they cared about the bots that were spewing literal white supremacy rhetoric. They'd already been doing that for a while. No, Major news outlets started reporting on these racist bots in June of 2020, and literal days later, Valve muted all of the free-to-play accounts. So if you really think Valve is going to make a massive change long after the fact that'll upset a lot of people, that's where the bar currently resides. Valve's public image getting absolutely ravaged by several massive news outlets at once. And I don't know, TF2's matchmaking system is functional but kinda sucks doesn't sound quite as damning as TF2 is overrun by racist bots. So there is no Easter Bunny, there is no Tooth Fairy, and there's no return to quickplay. But even if quickplay isn't coming back, that doesn't mean its spirit can't. Think about it. What do people miss about quickplay that isn't present with casual? By far the most common answer is the way that old Valve servers were set up. Yep, casual pubs just aren't the same. There are so many things missing. No auto team scramble, no map timer, you can't pick your own team, you can't switch teams, you can't spectate. Do you want to know how much work it would take to add all of these things to casual? I'll show you. That's it. Just these 6 commands. Copying and pasting these commands would instantly do everything I just listed. Maybe a few other variables would need to be changed, things like the UI might need to be tweaked, but the fact remains. Punching in literal console commands would instantly bring us 90% of the way there to the old pub experience, all without removing a single thing from casual. Same badges, same UI, and no friction. If you don't see yourself switching teams or spectating, you never have to. If you get bored of a map after 2 or 3 rounds, you're still free to re-queue. Which you kinda have to do in the current system anyways, because people always leave at the map vote. The most contentious one of these changes would be adding an auto-team scramble if one team wins twice in a row. But here's the thing. What happens in casual if one team wins twice in a row? It goes straight to the map vote. And once everyone's back, the teams are not the same as before. Almost like they were, scrambled. So we already have auto team scramble. It's just a matter of whether you want to wait 2 minutes and risk the entire server leaving before that scramble happens. This is where we start. These changes here, along with unmuting free-to-plays. Changes that would take literal seconds to implement, improve the game dramatically, and cause next to no friction, aka quality of life improvements, which Valve is very open to doing if the massive undertaking that was 64-bit TF2 is anything to go by. We don't need a trendy hashtag or a big movement, just people spreading the word, and maybe even sending a polite email to Valve. We know they actually read emails, so it's worth a shot. I know it's not a one-to-one recreation of the good old days, but I'll gladly get back 90% of it rather than refuse to budge and get nothing. And hey, if these changes get added and the feedback is positive, why not keep pushing for more? Like, say, if the same map is voted again, let people go right back to playing rather than forcing everyone to reload. Even being able to search for and connect to community servers could be implemented into casual. I'm sure of this, because when you use Bootcamp to play MVM, you're actually using quickplay. Bootcamp wasn't touched in Meet Your Match. It's still able to connect to community servers just like in the quickplay era. Community MVM servers are still able to configure their servers to be added to Bootcamp. The Steam support page literally still says quickplay. It is quickplay successfully integrated into TF2's modern matchmaking system. At that point, what else would there even be to want back? Are you really gonna refuse to budge because it's called casual instead of quickplay? Or because it doesn't have the old art? Okay, that last one's a fair point, but you get the idea. Casual's not going anywhere, so we might as well make it better.